S.S.S.Vayeishev Shabbos Chanukah Tufshin Pei Aleph. You know, when I think of doing a shir from these remote locations, it brings back memories of Pesach time until Shavuos time, when we couldn't go out and we couldn't do the shiurim from our regular location. Now, Baruch Hashem, it's for a good reason. We're doing remote location tonight, the first night of Chanukah. Baruch Hashem, everybody's busy, everybody has things to do, everybody's in a very happy mood, spending time with their families. And so we record the shir in a bit of a different location, but we have a good shir on Chanukah to bring to you right now from the Nesivos Shalom. And we all know that a lot of the mitzvah of Chanukah, when we speak about Chanukah, we speak about the mitzvahs of Chanukah, it revolves around something called Persume Nisa, the spreading of the nace. Spreading the nace, the great nace of Chanukah, the public display of the nace and the mitzvah. Although we know that usually the kavod for Hashem, the way we honor HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to do things in a quiet way. B'hatznei aleches, that's the right way to do things, the way we're supposed to do things. We're not supposed to flaunt anything. We're not supposed to be showy. We're not supposed to be making noise. That's not the way of a Yid. Usually we do things quietly and we get things done. But here, when it comes to Chanukah specifically, Persume Nisa, flaunt it. Say as much as you can about the nace of Chanukah. Show as much as you can about the nace of Chanukah. And really, and this is despite the fact that really people know by now already that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could perform miracles, that Hashem has in his capability to do great miracles. Yet, what are we showing? And to whom are we showing? What are we doing over here? What is this Persume Nisa that despite the fact that we know that Hashem constantly does miracles and is capable of doing miracles, and against the grain of what we usually do of keeping things quiet, what is this Persume Nisa? Especially if you take a look in the Ramah, in Hilchas Chanukah, the Ramah in Siman Reish, in Siman Tov Reish, Ayin Aleph, Sif Zayin, the Ramah tells us, Umihu bizman hazeh shekulanu madlikin bifnim habayis. The minhag became to light the Neres Chanukah. We know in Eretz Yisrael they light outside, but in Chutz La'aretz, the minhag became to light inside. So what, again, once again, where are we doing? What is this Persume Nisa? Who are we doing this Persume Nisa for? So Nesivos Shalom tells us that there is actually a difference between a nace like Yetzias Mitzrayim and the nace of Chanukah. There's a difference. And Nesivos Shalom tells us that by the nace of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the miracle was actually only a vehicle to get us out of Mitzrayim and to become the Am HaNivchar. The goal was that Klal Yisrael should leave Mitzrayim, go up in Madregais, be Mekabel the Torah, and become the Am HaNivchar. That was the goal. The miracles were only a vehicle to get us to that point. Because B'etzem, really, Hashem could have taken us out of Mitzrayim without miracles too. Hashem could have taken us out of Mitzrayim in a different way. But Hashem performed the miracles just to show us that I'm doing it with miracles. How much more it shows how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. S.S.S.Vayeishev Chanukah. I'm going to bring you to me. I'm going to show you, Klal Yisrael, how much I love you. And that is what the Nisim, that is what the miracles at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim were for. Hashem was showing, Ani v'loi malach, Ani v'loi saraf. I'm going to do it all by myself. Hashem could have done it through messengers in a very routine way, but no. Hashem wanted to show us by the Nisim how great is the love of Hashem to Klal Yisrael. But by Chanukah, and for that matter, by Purim also, the entire goal was the Pirsum Hanes. The Pirsum Hanes itself was the end, not a means. And these two mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that we mentioned, Chanukah and Purim, because of that, we are told, Chazal tell us, that these mitzvahs will reverberate and go straight throughout all the generations. And they would never, ever be batal. Chazal gave us these Yomim Tovim to light our way through a dark Golus. And is that for that reason that Hashem, and Chazal tell us that Hashem will not be mevatel ever the Yomim Tovim of Chanukah and Purim. Pirsumei Nisa in those cases is there to implant emunah in ourselves. It's a vital part of what is going on here. It's not even necessarily for other people. We light inside the house. We light, and we're not even sure, we don't even know that anybody else will see it. We ourselves, it's meant for us to show us that this Yontif of Chanukah will never be batal. The Nes itself is the end. The Nes itself is the purpose of this Yontif. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in Parshas Eikev tells us something very, very important, something that we have to take with us and internalize this lesson, this Chanukah right now. The Nesivos Shalom tells us from the Orach Chaim that when Hashem makes a nes for a person, Hashem makes a nes for an individual, the Yetzer Hara gets right to work. As soon as Hashem does a nes for a person, the Yetzer Hara gets to work to make sure that that the person does not remember it, that you shouldn't remember it. The Yetzer Hara wants to dress everything up in Teva, everything to be dressed up in nature, that you should not see anything special or out of the ordinary with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for you. So when it comes to Chanukah now, we counteract that. And we say, no, nothing is nature. It is not the normal course of events. The Ramban in Parshas Boy says that every Jew is obligated to believe that everything that happens to us is nisim. We're so used to seeing things on a daily basis, and we begin to think and we convince ourselves, mostly by rote, by things that go on, that there's no miracles, that Hashem has set up some sort of nature, the way things have to be every day. A Yid has to know, says the Ramban, that there is no such thing as just nature. And Nesivos Shalom tells us, and he uses this lashon, he says the worst thing that can happen to a person is when a person begins to attribute things to happenstance. When a person begins to say that this is the way it is, this is the way it happens, this is the way things go. And the Torah tells us in the Toichacha, in Parshas Bechukoisai, the following pasuk. The Torah tells us why chas v'shalom, that there are times that there's going to be punishment coming to the world, coming to Klal Yisrael, chas v'shalom. And the Torah tells us, Al asher halachtem imi bekeri, because you went with me, and the Torah uses a lashon of bekeri, and bekeri is a lashon of mikra, that the reason that Hashem sometimes has to wake us up is because we are saying to ourselves a lashon of mikra, that things are just happening, and you don't work on seeing and feeling the Yad Hashem in everything. And besides doing mitzvahs, the Torah is full of mitzvahs that we're supposed to do. The Torah tells us about doing mitzvahs. But besides doing mitzvahs, there's many times that the Torah tells us, lishmoya es koil Hashem, to hear and to listen to kaviyachol, the voice of Hashem. And you know what that means? And Nesivos Shalom says it means to tune in and to hear that everything that happens to us and everything that goes on around us is from Hashem and is being done by Hashem. To a Jew, there is no mikra. There is no that things are just happening. Everything that happens to us, everything that happens in the world, everything that is happening around us, and there is so much going on around us. So much happened from last Chanukah to this Chanukah. I was just thinking to myself that when it was last Chanukah, who would dream what would be in front of us the next year? Who would dream that what would transpire is 9 months of people being locked in and being contagious and being infectious, and we learned a whole new life, and we saw everything was planned by Hashem for a reason. And the Nesivos Shalom actually mentions, it's interesting to note, he doesn't talk much about current events in the Sfarim, but Nesivos Shalom must have given this shir, this maimar, when communism fell. And he tells us that there was practically never a force, such a force of fear and such a force of dread in the world as communism was. And it's actually spread, if you think about it, probably half the world was communist or socialist, and people were scared. It had such a hold on people where even mentioning the word God, even mentioning the name of God, was punishable by death. And this went on for years and for decades. And in the blink of an eye, those of you that remember, those of you that have even that are younger, that remember, that have read your history books, in the blink of an eye, communism was over. It was gone. And there's no natural rationale for that. And every Jew had to clearly see the Yad Hashem, where to mention the word God was punishable by death. You know what communism was? You were not allowed to believe. Nobody was allowed to pray. Certainly not allowed to learn Torah, to bring Torah in, the Iron Curtain. And within a snap of a finger, it was over. The wall in Berlin, right, came down, and communism was over. No way to explain that other than the Yad Hashem. The Koyach Hara lasted for years, and then it was gone. But we as Jews who are now in the Yontif of Chanukah, the Yontif where we promote and we recognize that the world is full of miracles, we're Maminim. And we know that everything is Hashem. And we need to open our eyes on this Yontif of Chanukah. The vital part of the Yontif, the entire Yontif, is Persume Nisa. Nothing is happenstance. Nothing that happened to us happened because Hashem made it natural. It's not every day. Hashem starts the world. Everything is being controlled by Hashem. To see that Hashem is sometimes hiding, but everything is being controlled. And each day, we hope, will come closer. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayeshev, it's one of the few times that Shabbos Chanukah will not be Parshas Miketz. Then another one of those trivia things, calendar things that I enjoy. This week, Klal Yisrael goes down to Mitzrayim, and Yosef and Yaakov, we talk about they're going to Golus Mitzrayim. So on one hand, we have the Nisim that happened eventually when we got out of Mitzrayim. And on the other hand, we have the Persume Nisa, the purpose, the miracles, that there's a Yontif that we have now that will never be batal. We have a Yontif where we should start to think about it and internalize it, that everything is the Yad Hashem. And we saw it this year, as we mentioned, more than ever. The Yad Hashem is so prevalent. Persume Nisa, let's spread the word that everything is miracle. Everything comes from Hashem. And if we learn that lesson, Hashem won't have to remind us. I wish everybody a freilich and Chanukah, a good Shabbos, and may this be an extremely joyous Chanukah and a time that we grow and we learn and make this Chanukah special, the last Chanukah in Galus.